Hadis descended from the roof to confront Bale, declaring he would never abandon his wife to flee to safety alone. The dragon quickly retreated, and Hadis showed concern for Jill, taking her into his arms and asking if she was unharmed. Jill, in turn, asked about his well-being. Once assured they were both safe, Jill quickly relayed what had happened at the port, explaining that the enemy's occupation had only been a distraction. She told him that the Northern Squadron had rescued Lady Sphere and herself while also securing the port. Immediately, Bale accused Jill of being a spy, questioning how Hadis could not see her deception. He reminded Hadis that enemies still held the port and asked him to trust his judgment and wait in the castle. He even suggested that if Jill had been manipulated by the bandits, he would readily explain that to the court. Seeing this as extortion, Jill called him a coward, recognizing that he ultimately intended to label everyone as bandits. Hadis quickly grabbed the bandit leader by the collar, noting that he looked good in the Northern Squadron uniform. He introduced himself as someone familiar with all the ranks, adding that it would be absurd if the Emperor did not know the names and faces of his own army. He then ordered them to reveal everything they knew about the mastermind behind the entire plan. Sensing the Emperor's imposing presence, Hugo quickly ordered everyone to swear loyalty to the Dragon Emperor, and they knelt down in unison. Hugo then recounted the day's events, introduced himself, and pledged unwavering loyalty. He also revealed that the real conspirator was Marquis Bale. Satisfied, Hadis declared his wife's innocence, and that it was now Bale's turn to face trial. When Bale tried to protest, Hadis silenced him, forcing him and his men to the ground. Hadis told him that the dead did not speak, and warned him that if his wife was proven innocent, Bale would face severe consequences. The time had come for Bale to ponder his fate, how he would be executed, and whether he would suffer for trying to harm his own daughter just to attack his emperor. Hadis then asked about the condition of Bale's second wife and daughter. Seeing Bale's expression change, Hadis decided to start with them and let Bale beg for mercy. Lady Sphere, looking disheartened, wondered aloud what would happen to her father now. Jill explained that if Bale confessed to all his crimes and surrendered Bielberg, he could be saved. Deep down, she understood that Hadis's true intention was to spare everyone involved. Bale then began mocking Hadis for his pathetic kindness, reminding him of his own mother's tragic fate and the losses he endured before claiming the throne. Bale declared he was simply defending his lands from a cursed emperor, claiming no one in the country wanted Hadis as their ruler. Just as Jill tried to intervene, Hadis remarked that he was already aware of these feelings. Nonetheless, he stated that, whether they wanted it or not, he was the emperor. He ordered Bale to be taken away, while Lady Sphere remained behind, explaining all that had happened. Later, in the former Marquise's mansion, Jill tried to locate the bedroom, noting how empty the place felt, as the former servants feared them. The little dragon explained the situation to Jill, who wondered why His Majesty hadn't joined them for dinner, thinking perhaps Hadis was pushing himself too hard. The dragon remarked that while Hadis might be somewhat naive, he was still the emperor, and not to be underestimated. He's a young man born with the skills and abilities to rule, but seeks to avoid governing through fear. Still, Jill didn't think it was right for Hadis to act as if nothing had happened. She worried that if he continued like this, he might end up losing empathy for others and for himself. The little dragon pointed out that, due to his limited interaction with others, Hadis struggled with boundaries, mistakenly thinking that simply breaking the curse would be enough for everyone to accept him. However, this approach could backfire. The dragon believed Hadis needed to experience genuine human kindness, or he might end up losing faith in humanity, especially given what happened to his mother. Hadis wasn't just the emperor, he was the reincarnation of the dragon god, and if he ever truly became disappointed in people, it could mean disaster. Jill thanked the dragon, acknowledging that, thanks to his guidance, Hadis had come this far. They needed to help him get used to people, maybe even shape him into a beloved emperor. The dragon asked Jill if she felt anything for Hadis, to which she replied that she felt like punching him. Despite her feelings, she had no intention of starting a romantic relationship with him until they became a perfectly married couple. Finally, they reached the bedroom, and the dragon informed her it belonged to both of them. Jill immediately felt nervous about spending the night alone with Hadis, but upon entering, she found him very drunk. The little dragon, concerned since Hadis had never drunk alcohol before, quickly set about helping him recover, with Jill's assistance. After a while, Hadis regained his senses, and seeing Jill, affectionately called her his amethyst. Relieved to see him looking less flushed, Jill brought him water and some fruit. Hadis asked if she would look after him, and Jill, pleased, responded that she was used to taking care of drunks, though she could call someone else if he preferred. Hadis reassured her, saying she was more than enough. Afterward, he asked for an apple, and Jill tried determinedly to cut it but couldn't manage it. Hadis laughed, pointing out that knowing how to wield a knife didn't mean she knew how to cook. He lifted her and sat her down in front of him, showing her how to cut it. Jill requested a rabbit-shaped cut, something she'd always wanted to try. With patience, Hadis transformed an apple into a charming little shape. Shocked by the outcome, Jill called Hadis a genius. He shared that he had learned this skill to perhaps gain the sympathy of his half-siblings. Jill, thinking of her own large family, mentioned that her parents, who had seen Hadis's proposal, would understand why he had not returned. Her family motto was, "Justice belongs to the strongest." Jill thanked Hadis for forgiving the bandits and the Marquise, knowing that he did so because she did not like violence. Hadis replied that it was only natural to save his wife. Jill expressed hope that he would remember that, cursed or not, she wanted him to live. She requested that if anyone ever questioned his right to live, he should reply, "There is someone now who wants me to live," meaning that he had her. This causes Hadis to blush and ask Jill if she loves him very much. She replies that her standards for love are pretty low, implying that for now, their relationship feels more like that of siblings. The Emperor can't resist and hides under the covers, claiming that he can't stop shivering from the cold. Jill immediately joins him, saying that his body temperature has always been warm, so he can use it to keep himself comfortable. But this is all a ploy by Hadis, who, while holding her, asks how she can treat her husband like a brother. That's just not right. Jill says that she was just worried because he seemed cold, but Hadis tells her to relax, as he has no intention of doing anything inappropriate. He also adds that it's perfectly fine for a wife to fall in love with her husband, and Jill responds with the same comment, but he assures her that he would never do something like that to her. Jill now wonders what he meant by that. Hadis quickly asks why she doesn't try to fall in love with him. If she does, he'll feel like finding out everything about her. Terrified, Jill turns away, thinking that if she dares, she will pay. Besides, she is 16 years old inside. She has already experienced her first love and suffered a terrible heartbreak. Soon, she falls asleep. Looking at her, Hadis wonders if she is more of a child or an adult. Even though she is 14, can see rave, and wields powerful magic, she couldn't ask for more than that. Still, he is not sure if she really meant it when she said she wanted to make him happy. Meanwhile, he wonders how it would feel to be loved. The next day, during lunch, Hadis offers Jill a baguette with cheese and hard-boiled eggs. After asking her if it was delicious and hearing her say yes, he quickly asks her if she has fallen in love with him yet. Jill asks him how many times he will keep asking the same question, and Hadis replies that he will keep asking until she says yes. Naturally, this startles Jill, but Hadis tells her that he's been attracted to her cold gaze lately as well, causing Jill to think he's simply a degenerate. Just then, Camilla and Zeke arrive, greeting Jill and apologizing for interrupting her conversation with the Emperor. However, it's time for their lessons. They both suggest that Hadis bake some treats while she waits. Hadis, mentioning how considerate they always are, offers them some cookies. Jill quickly scolds them both for allowing themselves to be bribed with food, adding that they shouldn't be so casual with him. Camilla is quick to point out that Jill was the one who told them she didn't want formalities. Zeke and Camilla immediately cheer Hadis up, telling him that Jill is more interested in him than he thinks, so they believe he has a chance. When they ask if he loves Jill, Hadis blushes and denies it, wondering aloud how he could possibly love his amethyst. He quickly becomes flustered, getting tangled in his own words. The three of them leave, and Jill, meanwhile, tells them to stop having fun at their expense. But Camilla reminds her that, as powerful as she is, her only ally in this place is the Emperor, so it would be wise to keep him wrapped around her finger. A blushing Jill quickly says they don't have that kind of relationship. They then tell her to stop running away every time he invites her to eat, but Jill mentions the food isn't the problem. However, they reply that by acting like this, she's giving him false hope. Jill seems oblivious to this, but Zeke and Camilla assure her they're on her side, advising her to ignore Hadis as his courtship is rather childish. Jill, for her part, mentions this is the first time she's been seriously courted by a knight, so she doesn't know how to handle it. Camilla quickly hugs Jill, thinking she's adorable, but Jill tells them not to jump to conclusions because, in the end, they'll be in a marriage where she won't love him. If she doesn't, she won't be able to guide him when he makes mistakes. Jill knows that her past self ended up entangling them both before, so this time, she doesn't intend to repeat the same mistake. Camilla then asks her about the dragon consort ring. Jill says she can't take it off, as Hadis mentioned that as long as she's with him, she'll be under his control. This makes her wonder why he controls the one he's supposed to marry, and who is responsible for the curse. Zeke mentions that, if the legend is true, it's the curse of the goddess Kratos. Jill is shocked by this, and Camilla reminds her that Jill is originally from those lands. so she asks if the legend differs in her version. Jill explains that long ago, the goddess and the dragon god argued about what to do with humans and fought. The goddess wanted to protect them with love, while the dragon wanted to guide them with logic, which led to the continent splitting into two kingdoms, or so the story goes. She'd also heard that originally, Kratos and Rave were supposed to marry. Camilla confirms this is true, as the goddess's blessing on these lands eventually turned into a curse. There was a time when nothing grew in Rave until the emperor found a consort with enormous magical power who raised a shield atop the Rakia mountains and managed to protect the lands from the curse. It's said that this shield now forms the current borders. Unaware of the legend of these borders, Jill remembers that Rave had said the curse wouldn't activate if she was with him. At that moment, Lady Sphere arrives with an urgent letter for Jill. Seeing the handwriting, Jill immediately recognizes who it's from, is shocked, and drops the letter. Hadis arrives and, upon reading it, comments that he didn't know the crown prince was so passionate, so he'll have to prepare a fun welcome party. The letter reads, "I'm coming to find you now," signed by Gerald de Kratos. Hadis, accepting the challenge, declares that love is war. If you've reached this point in the video, don't forget to leave the word exquisito in the comments. Thank you very much, and see you in the next video.